AI Audiobooks presents Descent of the Demon God by Hanjung Welia, Chapters 7 through 15. Ep. 7. Unidentified Man 3. Whoa. Shenyang City's Regional University Hospital's emergency room. It was the only place which was open at 6:30 p.m. in the evening. Paramedics rushed Li Myong, the third team leader of the public security, to the emergency room. As his bleeding was too severe, the ambulance took urgent measures to stop hemostasis and did a blood transfusion. However, despite being in pain, Li Myong didn't pass out or tremble. Phew. Throughout the ambulance ride, he was confused. A man who didn't seem like the kind to step back suddenly backed out. Like something was happening. Tatak! The on-call surgeon and nurses who had been contacted by the paramedics rushed into the room. The surgeon who came in mumbled, "Deech, this is the third time already." Before Li Myong was brought in, 2 officers were brought here. And this man was literally the third patient from the Public Security Bureau. "Please move him this way." The surgeon guided the paramedics to an empty bed. At his signal, the paramedics and the nurses lifted the pedestal of the stretcher and moved the man. 1, 2, thud. Yook! They moved as carefully as possible, but the wounds still hurt. Li Myong was close to crying. Damn it. I wanted it to turn into a dream for me to meet that crazy ass. Ha! Still, this was better than dying. The surgeon on duty cut off his shirt and pants with medical scissors. "You did a great job stopping the bleeding." The surgeon praised the paramedic's skills. The surgeon who removed the bandages and gauzes from the wounds said to the nurse, "Prepare antibiotics." "Yes, sir." When the bandages were removed, Li Myong clenched his teeth, trying not to scream. It was the parts where the bullets penetrated. There was no way that it didn't hurt. The surgeon, who was wiping off the dried blood with a sterile gauze, examined the wound on his shoulder and shook his head as he looked at the thigh. He tried pressing the area. Li Myong lifted his upper body from the bed with wide eyes. He looked at the doctor who was examining the area. "Is it serious?" The mobile striker who followed Li Myong in the ambulance asked with concern. The surgeon answered with a curious expression. "Did you say that he got hit by a sniper rifle?" Yes. He's a leader of the Public Security Bureau, right? And this is definitely amazing." "Sorry?" Li Myong, who laid down, and even the mobile striker were puzzled. The surgeon put it in layman's terms. "Well, taking a closer look, one can see that the bullet pierced cleanly. The shoulder and the thigh, the bullet went through flesh and no bones." The surgeon pressed the thigh to check the damage to the bone. "After the test, I will follow our procedures and check for any infection near the wounds. You will have to receive treatment, but you can be discharged in about a week. It's better to start with desk work." At the words of the surgeon, Li Myong was shocked. Despite how much the medical field has changed, he expected to stay hospitalized for several weeks due to muscle or bone damage. What shit. He was attacked by the Murim warrior in old clothes. But according to the doctor's words, he wasn't just used as a human shield, but the man made sure that Li Myong received as little damage as possible. Is this really possible? It was such an amazing ability that was unbelievable for even a Murier to have. And then the emergency room phone rang. Beep! 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 The nurse near the desk moved. "Yes, this is the Maybe it was a direct line inside the hospital. The nurse, who had been listening to the call with a serious expression, spoke. "Sir, 10 emergency patients from public security are being escorted in." At those words, Li Myong and the other Herbal striker turned towards the nurse. The surgeon frowned as he asked, "More from public security." Within an hour, patients from public security kept coming in. And this time, the number was 10. This meant that a team was injured. The mobile striker cautiously asked the nurse, who answered the call, "Do you know which unit is coming?" I remember it being the second mobile strike team. I don't think there's much time difference, co-workers. Yes? At the nurse's words, Lee Myung was shocked. The news was a shock to these two, who thought that Murim warrior was successfully caught. What the hell happened? 8:30 in the evening. A black sedan headed towards the Shenyang City Public Security Bureau. A middle-aged bearded man sat with his legs crossed in the back seat of the car. He was Ho-il Ki-young, the deputy director of the Shenyang City Public Security Bureau. He's someone who could be called the second in command. But on the way to the Public Security Bureau, he was constantly complaining. I don't get it. How can a person be so stupid? It's clear that I have an important appointment today. I need to be flexible enough to do my own work, but those who work below me need my presence. What is he saying? And what is he doing? Working. Is staying with a young woman over your lovely wife at home called working? This guy is the deputy director of public security. Tich. The driver thought to himself. As a salaried worker, he couldn't voice his true feelings. Rather, he smiled and said, That's right. Deputy Director, it must be horrible going to work at this time. The driver's job would only stay if he knew his place. But the man had a temper. With a weird smile, Deputy Director Ho-il Kyung responded, Are you stupid? How could they call in someone who just left work? It's because of those bastards that men like you are able to keep their bloody driver jobs. This dog, how should I match his flow? In an instant, the driver swore. Finally, they managed to arrive at the office. Shenyang City Public Security Bureau. The bureau had 3 buildings. On the left was the Transportation Department. In the middle was the Public Security, made up of powerful teams and various departments. And the building on the right was where the Special Ability Division and Mobile Strike Teams were deployed from. TAC. Maybe they were waiting in advance. A man in his early 40s in front of the building came down the stairs. It was Song Wei Kang, the head of the Violent Crimes Division. Looking through the glass, Ho-il Kyung mumbled, This isn't some simple greeting. If he passed the examination, which will be held in a while, he could get promoted to director. Unless something happened. Click. Respect. Perhaps it was a familiar act. Sun Wei Kang, the head of the Violent Crimes, opened the backseat door and saluted. As soon as he got out of the car, Ho-il Kyung's face changed. Right. What kind of a madman brought us all together? He asked with a smile. As soon as the door was closed, the driver stuck out his tongue and raised his middle finger. While riding the elevator going down to the 5th basement of the Public Security Bureau, Song Wei Kang gave a rough report. To that, Ho-il Kyung asked. What? What the hell is that? You're saying that he threw 10 people, including the team leader, who were in the task force bus? According to the surgeon in charge of the emergency room, the regenerative treatment is possible with surgery to the fractured bones, so it might take 3 weeks. Aha. The year 2047 had a breakthrough in treatments. A regenerative treatment developed in Germany, a technology that accelerated recovery on a cell-by-cell basis. It was a popularized technology, internal and external. Injuries could be healed in a fortnight, unless it was some genetic disease. And they let go of such a man who was capable of doing that. The man shook his head and spoke. Because he was a Murim warrior, they couldn't even touch him. Even if they wanted to, 2 team leaders and 1 unit got injured. Song Wei Kang had witnessed it. For the Murim man to wave his hand and make people fly. No one could touch him. Maybe the team is made up of idiots. Teach. Call that special task force. The 5th Special Mobile Strike Unit. It's a Murim warrior, so they should deal with it. Deputy Director. That team was put near the wall by the city's northern outskirts because of the drug-dealing site of a Murim organization which was... As if he only remembered then, Ho-il rubbed his forehead with his hands. Haha, yes. Was that happening at Foppen? I was on the radio, but they are still arresting the criminals and returning." Then the deputy director smiled. The media had been making a lot of noise about the drugs, calling it some significant achievement. Nice, that's a good thing. It would have been really good if their plan wasn't happening now. With a stiff expression, Deputy Director asked, "Where the hell did that crazy bastard come from? What the hell is going on?" "That." "What? Spill it?" We couldn't confirm his affiliation because his identity wasn't registered. Deputy Director Hui Kyung frowned at the words of Song Wei Kang. Unregistered? During his time as Deputy Director, he never once came across an unregistered Murim warrior. He did hear from time to time that such things happened in other cities, but it never happened under his jurisdiction. He hasn't said anything? He has exercised his right to remain silent ever since he came here. Ha! Even dogs and cows are being given the right to remain silent. That man is supposed to have fallen from a fairly high place, but isn't something suspicious? Is it related to them? He wasn't referring to any group which committed crimes, like the forces of evil. Among the Murim organizations, there was quite a large organization working. It was tough to touch their bases, even for the Public Security Bureau. This is getting worse and worse. Anyway, the guy was brought in, but they didn't know anything, not even his name. At first, we ran a fingerprint search and an iris recognition scan, but nothing matched. Finally, we called for a blood test. We called Dr. Cho from the medical side. The interrogation room has been prepared for the test and questioning just before the deputy director arrived. They headed for the interrogation room after talking in front of the elevator on the 5th basement floor. The place where the man was kept was the 4th interrogation room. They entered the room which was next to the interrogation room. Salute. Inside, a short-haired woman and a large man got up and saluted. They were detectives belonging to the 3rd team of the Violent Crimes Division. Quiet. Deputy Director Ho Il. Kyung raised his finger to his mouth and made a gesture for them to stay silent. This was a room connected to the interrogation room. It was an observation room which no one could see into, as it had specially treated glass. The ones in this room could see the interrogation room, but not the other way around. There was only one table in the interrogation room, and a young man with long hair and a pure white face was seated at it. He was Chun Yewon. "I'm only going to draw a little blood for identification. No harm is being done." The voice inside the room could be heard through the speaker in the observation room. In the interrogation room, Cho Sejong, a public security medical team member, held a blood sampling syringe and tried persuading Chun Yawan. "Is he the one?" "Yes. He really looks like someone out of a historical drama. Did you at least retrieve his weapon?" We apologize." Despite what he wore, it pissed off the deputy director that his weapon couldn't be taken away. Ho Il. Kyung approached the glass and took a look. Startle! Chun Yewon, who had been sitting still, suddenly looked at him. All that Chun Yewon could see was the mirror, so how could he look exactly where this man was standing? He asked Song Wei, Kang, who was behind him. "He can't see us, right?" "It wouldn't be possible, even if he tried." The glass was like a mirror inside the interrogation room. "Maybe I was mistaken?" Chun Yewon looked back at Cho Se-jong. Ho Il. Kayung thought that it was a coincidence and looked at him again. "Is the blood not drawn yet?" "We tried to, but he keeps thinking we are trying to harm him," answered the female detective behind him. Suddenly, Chun Yaun held out his arm and said, "Try taking it if you can." Hearing those words from the speaker, Ho Il Kyung shook his head. "Is that man mental?" Cho Si Jong of the medical unit sighed in the room and picked up the syringe. Then, a rubber tube was wrapped around Chun Yawan's right wrist. "Relax your arm. It will sting a little." Cho Si Jong tried to insert the needle into Chun Yawan's vein. However, crack. Instead of piercing the flesh, the syringe needle broke. Cho Si Jong, who was pretty experienced, wasn't the kind to make mistakes. Then he asked Chun Yo-won, "You can't flex your arm. Relax. I didn't do that." Phew. Understood. Anyway, don't flex. Your veins will hurt. Cho-se, Jong checked if Chun Yo-won was clenching his fist or not. After confirming that he wasn't, he once again moved the needle towards the vein. Crack! When the needle broke, Si-jong realized that it wasn't a mistake. The needle broke as if it hit a strong object. Whose flesh is this hard? The needle can go in as long as it stabs the right place, no matter how thick and strong the muscles are. Si-jong, who realized that, tried to replace the needle. Clench! Huck! What's this? Chun Yo-won grabbed the man's arm. In a low voice, he spoke to the one who was bewildered. Isn't it enough that I gave you 2 chances? Let me go. With pain and fear that his wrist would break, Sejong screamed. That was the signal for the detectives in the observation room to come and help. Damn it! The 2 detectives in the other room panicked and tried to run. However, looking through the glass as if he could see who was all there, Chun Yo-won spoke. Try doing something useless, and I break this man's wrist. The faces of the detectives in the observation room went stiff. They felt like Chun Yo-won was looking at them, but discarded it as some coincidence. Tak! Chun Yo-won got up from his seat. Ouch! My hand. Say, Jong complained as he was in pain, but it was ignored by Chun Yo-won, who moved closer to the glass while dragging the man. Huh? The place he went was where the deputy director was standing. He was looking more precisely than before, making the deputy director turn as stiff as a stone. Chun Yo-won said, "You seem to be in a higher position than the others." Gasp! Ho-il Kyung, who was frightened by the voice he heard through the speakers, unknowingly took a step back. Ep. 8. 12 hours. 1. Team 9. 3. There was silence in the observation room next to the interrogation room. Regardless of the distance, not a single person could even blink their eyes. Deputy Director Ho-il Kyung was so surprised that he couldn't even turn his head while speaking to Song-wei Kang, the head of the Violent Crimes Division, who was standing behind him. Song, is this really working? He shouldn't be seeing. It was only possible to see through the tinted glass or the special glass in the interrogation room while using a special device from the military mobile strike team. But seeing Chun Yo-won, it felt like he could really see through the glass. How can someone who shouldn't be able to see me stare at me? Ho-il! Kyung yelled. When Song-wei Kang couldn't come up with an answer, the short-haired female detective spoke. Deputy Director, he could be deliberately trying to sway us with a bluff. Bluff? How many times does an interrogation room appear in the movies and dramas these days? There is no way they wouldn't know that someone is behind the glass. At her calm words, Ho-il Kyung shook his head in disappointment, calling this a bluff stupid. That man was looking straight at the deputy director and spoke about his position too. This guy is a Murim warrior. We can't think of this from an ordinary person's point of view. Ho-il Kyung, who was shaken until a second back, calmed down. To get to his position, he didn't just play golf and entertain his dumb superiors. He agreed with one thing the female detective said. He could be trying to sway us. In that case, he shouldn't appear shaken. Getting caught in the criminal's pace would make it difficult to conduct the interrogation. Even if this glass couldn't stop him from seeing, the glass shouldn't have a problem with being bulletproof and soundproof. Ho-il Kyung pressed the button in front of glass and calmly opened his mouth. Click! Can you see us? He had to be sure. He needed confirmation. Didn't your man say that it couldn't be seen through? Ho-il Kyung frowned at Chun Yo-won's words. Again, he spoke while looking through the glass. The atmosphere was so silent, it should have been hard to know if someone was in the observation room or not. Cheeky bastard! For some reason, he felt annoyed at Chun Yo-won's attitude. Not losing his composure, Ho-il Kyung pressed the button and spoke. Let the doctor go. Ho il. Kyung demanded the release of Cho Sejong. If he kept holding the man, then the doctor would turn into his hostage. UK plea. Please. Cho Se-jong, who was frightened, almost begged Chun Yao-won. Ho il. Kyung continued to speak in a calm manner. If you let the doctor do his task and go, I will make sure that your punishment is kept to a minimum. An attempt to negotiate. I am the Deputy Director of the Public Security Bureau. I have the discretion to close my eyes in special cases. Deputy Director? There is only one person above me here. Are you still unable to trust me? Ha! Huh? Of course, it was a lie. He was just bargaining for the life of the doctor. Ho il. Kyung's mind was already filled with thoughts of punishing the man in the interrogation room. I will show you how it's done. The CTV cameras in the interrogation and observation room were still running, and people who worked for him were watching, which meant that he had to showcase his skills as much as possible. Deputy Director, Negotiations with Criminals. I will take responsibility for this. Deputy Director. The others were unaware of that and thought that the Deputy Director was trying to save the doctor. They didn't know that Ho il, Kyung, was a master at creating a favorable image. However, there was another reason why Ho il, Kyung, was trying to negotiate. Do I look like I will negotiate with criminals? Ho il. Kyung's eyes were looking elsewhere. It was the free hand of Cho Se-jong, an anesthetic injection which was half out of his pocket. Cho Se-jong was the doctor in charge of most such cases, and every time he entered, he would come prepared for all possible situations. With a little bit of attention diversion from him, that can be used. Ho il. Kyung smiled. He had to do anything to keep Chun Yao-won from noticing it. Click! Ho il. Kyung pressed the button again and spoke. We won't do the blood test, so let the man go. Crack! Qua, qua! Before his words even finished, a scream erupted from Cho Se-jong. Cho Se-jong, whose wrist was broken, groaned in pain. Unable to control his anger, Ho il. Kyung stomped and shouted, What the fuck is that bastard doing? He didn't expect this to happen without the injection being given. With a condescending tone, Chun Yao-won spoke. I guess you are stupid. Did you think that I couldn't see it through the mirror? The Deputy Director was speechless for a moment. Because of Chun Yao-won's attitude, he forgot that the glass in the interrogation room acted like a mirror. Shit. If he had thought clearly, he would have discouraged Cho Se-jong from using that injection. It was Chun Yao-won's way of saying that it was your own mistake. Is there any reason why I would take this man hostage? What? Don't do useless things. And let go of that illusion that I came here because I was afraid of you men. At Chun Yao-won's warning, Ho il, Kyung punched the glass with his fist. This bastard. He forgot about creating a favorable image and ended up cursing him. Not Song Wei, Kong, nor the two other detectives said anything while looking at their boss. How can that cheap bastard even threaten me? The Deputy Director of the Public Security Bureau. It wasn't nice. The attitude of the man who was locked up in the interrogation room. Favorable image or whatever. He couldn't suppress himself anymore. Ho il. Kyung, who used his fist on the glass, suddenly realized something. Huh? Hold on, did I press the mic button before? He was so angry at the sudden incident that he didn't realize it. Apparently, the mic button wasn't pressed when he swore at the man. Looking back, he asked Song Wei, Kang, did I press the mic button by any chance? Ah! He could tell just by the shock. He surely released the button in shock when he saw the wrist being broken. Hey, is he? The observation room is soundproof, so even if one shouts inside, the sound would never flow out. But Chun Yao-won could listen to them. Ho il. Kyung stared at Chun Yao-won with fear in his eyes. Yo, you, what the hell are you? Chun Yao-won answered in a low voice. I have no reason to tell you. Don't bother me anymore while I'm here. This is your last warning. Ha! Ha! Ho! I'll! Kyung exclaimed. The criminal was speaking with an attitude that said he was going to leave the interrogation room very soon, trying to suppress his anger as much as possible. Ho I'll? Kyung asked Song Wei, Kang without looking back. Interrogation rooms 4 and 5 are for people with special abilities, right? Yay. Yes, he's here because he's a Murim. Okay, he asked to confirm it. The interrogation room Chun Yawen was locked in was exclusively for people with special abilities. Among those with special abilities, including Murim warriors, some believed in their own power and never cooperated with cops. So, this chamber was made of a special alloy. The glass between the rooms was made of a bulletproof material that could withstand more than 15 minutes of grinding with a machine and not break. Click. Ho Ilil. Kyung opened a safety box next to the microphone. It had 2 buttons. On the left is a green button that releases the tranquilizer and sleeping gas, and on the right is a red button that releases tear gas. A device installed to subdue those who ran rampant during interrogation. He took a long breath before looking through the glass. If the man could hear him, then he didn't have to press the button to talk. I don't care what kind of backing you have. For harming the lives of public security officers, you will be placed in jail for 24 years. I have seen dozens of people who bluff about believing in their abilities. He spoke calmly, but there was a tremble in his voice. It was clear that he was angry. With his index finger, Ho Il, Kyung was about to press the red button. Song Wei, Kang, who saw that, was perplexed. Deputy Director, Dr. Cho is still in the room. Stay back! Ho Il. Kyung held out his palm and made a gesture to not get closer to him. Glaring, he continued to speak to Chun Yawen. You asked us to not bother you. Ha, mental bastard. I'll bet my position as the deputy director to ensure you will never see the light of day again. You won't leave the interrogation room. If you get out, you'll be tagged as a criminal and immediately brought to trial. Bang! At that moment, Chun Yawen struck the glass with his palm. Just the palm, but the glass swayed as if it was struck by a powerful fist. There wasn't a scratch on it. Shocked, the deputy director flinched, but soon smirked, confirming that the glass was working. Ha! You think the bulletproof glass is called bulletproof for nothing, as if it would break with just a palm. Jed, chick. Before he could even boast anymore, the special glass began to crack around the place where Chun Yawen's palm struck. Chun Yawen didn't even hit the glass a second time. Grr! The glass around Chun Yawen's palm began to vibrate. The vibration grew stronger and more terrifying. This is crazy. Confused, the deputy director tried to hastily press the red button. It was then. Crack! Kia! The glass shattered like powder and covered the observation room. In the aftermath, the 2 detectives, Song Wei, Kang, and the deputy director were all thrown to the wall. Thud, thud, cough, cough. Most of the glass was turned into powder. If not for that, all their bodies would have been pierced with glass shards. They bumped into the wall and fell to the floor, coughing at the sudden situation, and fainted. Step! It was then Ho Il. Kyung heard the footsteps. 1. Although he was unconscious, he knew that something terrible was about to happen and tried to pull his gun out, but his body floated. Cook! Cook! Bang! Cuck! He was fixed to the wall of the observation room. The deputy director, who was fixed to the wall by the unknown force, tried to move, only to fail. He had the gun in his hand, but it was useless. Deputy director, pull! The large male detective pulled out his gun after coughing. The short-haired female also hurriedly stood up and pulled her gun. But, gun. Both their guns were pulled out of their hands and into someone else's. It was Chun Yawen who entered the observation room. Chun Yaowon, who was holding both guns in his hands, squeezed them. Crack! Like plastic toys, their guns shattered. It was metal pieces that fell to the floor. No way. Song Wei, Kang couldn't even stand up. He was too stunned to even move. Frightened by this unknown power, the female detective slumped to the floor. The male detective, who realized that their situation was the worst, rushed towards Chun Yaowon, thinking he had to do something. You! Weak! Chun Yaowon lightly waved his hand towards the detective. Wong! Ak! Bang! The bulky male detective's body flew towards the wall as if he was as light as a tissue. With the bang against the wall, he began to bleed from his head and passed out. This man, just how is he doing this? The deputy director, who was fixed to the wall, was gripped with fear. During his life as a public security officer, he saw numerous Murim warriors. Of course, most of them were criminals who came in, but they were all nothing in front of this man. Step. Chun Yaowon slowly approached him. He was just walking, but the deputy director could feel his heart intensely pound with each step. Please. He wanted to say something, but he couldn't even open his mouth. Jija. His trousers were warm and wet. In a low, growling voice, Chun Yaowon said, I definitely warned you. Yes, he did hear the warning. Chun Yaowon looked intently at the deputy director, who stayed silent without saying anything, and thought for a second, then spoke with a smile. Hostage. Yes, you should do well for that role. The deputy director's eyes widened as if they were about to pop out. Ep. 9. 12 hours. 2. 10. 11. 45. In the quiet interrogation room 4, a person was exhaling roughly. It was Ho-il Kyung, whose face was wet with sweat. His posture while sitting on the chair looked very uncomfortable. His arms were drooping, but seeing his shoulders, it looked like they were dislocated. Ugh, damn it, to dislocate bones every now and then. Ho-il, Kyung swore. It looked like only the shoulder blades were dislocated, but even the elbows were dislocated. Even the slightest movement didn't hurt. How could I, the deputy director, end up like this? Across from him was Chun Yaowon, sitting in a chair with his eyes closed. A peaceful face, as if he was meditating. Damn you bastard! Are you saying that you're not the least bit concerned after taking me hostage? True. He was the hostage of Chun Yaowon. The deputy director of the bureau was being held hostage in the Public Security Bureau itself. Shit! It was wrong of him to reveal his position. He just revealed himself as the perfect hostage. Chun Yaowon took one hostage, warned them not to bother him anymore, and drove the other two detectives and Song Wei, Kang outside the room. With the glass between the two rooms broken, it was like the interrogation room and observation room were one. What the hell are they doing? Kyung looked at the CCTV camera on the ceiling. Since the observation room was a mess, the only working CCTV camera was in the interrogation room. Are they not bothering to do their jobs? Why are the people who are supposed to rush in right away not arriving? His stomach swelled in anger. From what he heard through Song Wei Kang, it was clear that the Special Mobile Strike Team, the 5th team, had completed their mission and were returning. Even if they were on the outer wall of the northern side of the city, they should arrive in 40 minutes. But there was no news of them. It was painful, yet numb, because of the dislocated bones, but it was even more painful to see Chun Yaowon doing just fine. Ugh, just let me be released from here. That bastard will be transferred to the outskirts police station near the gate. Song Wei Kang was the one who called the deputy director after work hours. While waiting to be rescued, Ho-il Kyung looked at Chun Yaowon. It was late at night, so he wondered if Chun Yaowon was asleep. Chun Yaowon didn't even move. Watching that, the deputy director stood up very slowly. Shush! You take one step and I'll break your legs, making you unable to walk. Gasp! His heart dropped for a second. He only got up, but Chun Yawan spoke without even opening his eyes. The deputy director, who got up, immediately sat down. Chun Yawan had his eyes closed, but he could still tell the movements. I thought of breaking your legs right from the start. At the voice of Chun Yawan, who spoke like he were annoyed, Ho Il, Kyung prayed that he would wake up. The deputy director grumbled. What the hell is that bastard doing with his eyes closed? He was about to go crazy. There was a reason why Chun Yawan meditated. He spent time organizing and accepting the information which entered his head. Such a strange and surprising world. The future world, which was reliant on electricity and energy, was a shock to Chun Yawan. Not just that, but everything from the culture to the society's structure was completely different from the world he knew. A world without the imperial family. That was what shocked Chun Yawan the most. In his time, the existence of the imperial family was an obvious reality. It was said that the current time had some foreign countries where royal families existed, but it was just a symbolic existence with no power. At all of those changes, even his cold heart was shocked. Is this how the time changed? But just Nano was enough to know how tremendous the change was. Chun Yawan kept his cool, despite the new information because of Nano, which is far superior to modern technology. Well, the information that Nano just transferred to me is basic stuff, right? The wireless internet was blocked when we entered the public security building, so this was all I could gather. This was all the information that Nano could collect. Since the time was short to gather and organize the vast information of this era, Nano could only show some of it. The highly confidential public security didn't use wireless internet. Moreover, there wasn't enough time to gather information with all of the jammers and the bus ride to this place. The information Nano gathered was in the brief moment of getting off the bus and into the building. Chun Yawan asked Nano to transfer the collected information to his brain. Nano, I wanted to ask you this question a while back. I know that you were created several hundred years from now. If so, why couldn't you just pass on the information that you know without having to collect it? This was the question. He felt that collecting information was unnecessary. Originally, Chun Yawan wouldn't ask such questions, but as he accepted the information from the present age and became more aware of computers and the internet, he began to have such questions. There's a significant difference from the saved data. What? Society, culture, and technology all have differences from what is stored in the saved data, so I have to distinguish them. Chun Yawan couldn't understand it. That means this is a different era from what Nano knew. Chun Yawan frowned. How can that be? At that question, Nano gave the most accurate answer. There's a high possibility that this is another time axis. A different time axis. Ah. At those words, Chun Yawan remembered the words of his descendant. His descendant Chun, Mu Seong, explained that his existence didn't disappear even though the past changed because of his connection with the time axis. It was said that as actions and decisions occur differently, the dimension of the universe is divided, and the time axes are different. Then this is a completely different world. The information stored in Nano was meaningless. In terms of numbers, it meant that Chun Yawan was starting from 0. So, how do we get back to the original world? He had reasons to go back. The cult he was leading, Mun Q, and his unborn child. He couldn't stay in this era. Chun Yawan, who was worried, asked Nano. Nano, is there a time machine that I can use to travel? Chun Yawan, who was asking a question, stopped and opened his eyes. He stared at the ceiling. Why is he doing that? The deputy director, who was looking at Chun Yawan, was puzzled. The second floor of the Shenyang City Public Security Bureau. The air of the team on the second floor was the worst. The third team, including the off-duty detectives, were all summoned. The deputy director of public security was taken hostage. but there was no good way to rescue him. The female detective, with short hair and a face full of bruises, smiled when this was asked by the head of the Violent Crimes Division. Any problems with the KT? It was said that there is no movement at all. The deputy director is still unharmed. The female detective had gone to the KTV room to see what was happening. Bang! Song Wei. Kang smashed the desk with his fist. Are you smiling? Are you smiling at this? He saw how the deputy director was humiliated before their eyes. The shoulders and elbows were dislocated, and the screams. He even peed. Still, there are no further wounds on him. The female detective answered with a slightly dissatisfied voice. Song Wei. Kang didn't want to make eye contact with the woman who wasn't taking her task seriously. It was because she was the only one who didn't fight in the observation room. He couldn't blame her for being scared. Damn it! Where is the 5th team? Song Wei? Kang asked another detective. The detective who was in charge of gathering information spoke. There has been no response since the last radio message we got, about an hour back. Song Wei, Kang sighed. Originally, the 5th team should have arrived at the office a long time ago. Unfortunately, they had a problem. It was said that they were attacked by Murim warriors who seemed to have a connection with those they arrested. Thanks to that, they couldn't arrive at the set time. Song Wei. Kang was nervous. Not much time left. He never dreamed that such an ordeal would come about. Since the deputy director was taken hostage right in front of him, there was a high probability that Song Wei, Kang, would be demoted if the situation wasn't resolved. Damn it! What kind of things are happening because of the criminal with unknown identity? This is a shame on our bureau. That, a detective spoke. Making Song Wei? Kang asked. What? How about contacting Shenyang's Murim Association? Song Wei. Kang frowned at those words. The reason was well known to everyone. The Murim Association calling them would be horrible. It would be a huge blow to the Bureau's pride if they contacted them for being unable to solve their own problems. Who? Song Wei, Kang grunted. Say worthwhile stuff. If the public security asks for their help. No, at least we will be able to identify the person. Person? Isn't it important that the Murim Association is trying to push for autonomy without interfering with our work? True. Sang Wei, Kang, who dismissed the idea, was now showing interest. There was no good answer. They always try to solve matters related to Murim by themselves, so wouldn't they show interest in an unregistered one? You want us to throw a bait? Yes. Hopefully we will know whether the person is registered in Murim or not, and if they show interest. They will come out without us asking for cooperation. Why are you saying such an idea only now? You should have spoken right away. At Song Wei, Kang's words, the detective frowned. The compliment didn't sound like a compliment. Anyway, Song Wei, Kang, who thought that the detective was right, searched for the Shenyang City's Murim Association and pressed the call button. Tring, trying, tring! When he dialed the number, he heard familiar connecting tone. We are the proud descendants of Murim, inheriting the glory of our ancestors. It was an old song with newer and more popular versions of it out. Song Wei, Kang grumbled. Aren't they acting too sloppy? Isn't this one from like 30 or 40 years back? This song isn't even known to the public. And why use it for public institutions? Before he could nag any more, he heard a voice. Yes, this is the Shenyang City's Murim Association. Hello, this is Shenyang Public. Since our business hours are closed now, we won't be able to serve you. Our phone consultations start from Ninium. Damn it! Bang! Song Wei, Kang was so furious that he threw the receiver on the desk. The time is 11:55. Of course, this wasn't normal working hours. It's unnatural for the Public Security Bureau to work this late and even contact that Murim Association. But when he contacted them, he only got disappointing results. Damn it! Does that Murim Association not have a single person doing their jobs? He kept grunting. Kiek! The sound of tires stopping outside. One of the detectives from the third team looked outside and spoke with a bright face. Chief, the fifth team has arrived. Song Wei. Kang jumped up from his seat. The fifth mobile strike team was the only team dedicated to special ability users. EP 10. 12 hours. 3. The fifth special mobile strike team buses were lined up to the building on the right. Some of the buses were heavily damaged. There were holes in the ceilings, and more than half of the windows were shattered. Repairs were urgently needed. At least they were vehicles made exclusively for people with special abilities. If these were regular buses, then all that would have come back would be scrap metal. Be careful while coming in. Don't step on the rope over there. From inside the bus, members of the Special Mobile Strike Team came out while slowly leading the criminals into the building. Two handcuffs exclusively for special abilities were on their wrists and ankles, and the other criminals, who were wounded and didn't have the strength to resist, were being pushed into the building. Of course, not everyone went in smoothly. Let me go, you bastards! Let go! A bald, muscular man whose face was covered in blood was rebelling. He was Sun Mang, Dal. He was an important member of the Forces of Evil sect in Shenyang. Although it managed to develop into an organization, the root of it was the Murim people. With the handcuffs on, he couldn't use his internal energy anymore. However, it looked like he didn't neglect his physical training. Despite 2 officers pushing him, he was able to resist. That was when someone kicked him in the stomach. Puck! Quack! 2 mobile strikers pushed him to the ground, and the bald man began to cough up blood from the kick. Wiping the blood off his mouth, he yelled at the man. Ouch! You fucking bastard! To use these handcuffs, which forbids us from using internal energy, just to use it on us. If it hadn't been for the kick, which used internal energy, there would have been no blood. The man who kicked him took off his helmet. This man, in his late 30s, with a short and athletic hairstyle, was the leader of the 5th Special Mobile Strike Team, Yom Chan. The Chinese government didn't take drug crimes lightly. It was because they struggled with opium in the past. Evil bastards like you. Your roots never disappear despite not being active for years. All your crimes are based on drugs. With those words, Yom Chan tried to kick Sun Mang, Dal, who barely stood up. It was then that someone intervened. Team leader Yom. Stop that. Isn't he already in custody? Chief. The person who stopped him was Lee Taek Yon, the head of special crimes. He also learned martial arts and was the chief of the division, which was dedicated to crimes committed by special abilities users, including Murim warriors. It's because this bastard needs to come to his senses. You are an officer, and I understand how you feel, but there is something to be done. They need to be placed in prison. Understood. Since the chief was his superior, Yom Chan calmed his emotions. Take him away. Roger. Those on standby grabbed the man and dragged him away. Sun Mang, Dal, who was being dragged away, glared at Li Teek, Yon, and said, You must be wanting to play good cop, bad cop, but you are all the same. What? Even if we distribute the drugs, we aren't government dogs like you. Kayak, spit. Spit. The thick phlegm of Sun Mang. Dal smeared the jacket of Li Taek Yon, who was on the right. This. Yom Chan's face went stiff. This man should be taken away fast, but it was too late. Li Taek Yon's hand grabbed Sun Mang, Dal's face. This one's eyes. Li Taek Yon's eyes changed. In an instant, the man seemed to have a different personality. Dogs of the government? I should have just left you die. Li Taek Yon raised his internal energy, lifted Sun Mang, Dal, and then threw him on the ground. Bang! Blood oozed out of his head, which hit the floor. There was no way to protect his body when cuffs were still on. Don't try to act strong. In the end, you are criminals hated by the civilians, and we are civil servants that everyone envies. Kick! Ah! Lee Taek. Yon kicked Sun Mang, Dal's head with his foot as if his anger wasn't resolved yet. He groaned for a while, and then Sun Mang. Dal didn't move anymore. Ah! Team leader Yom Chan bit his tongue. Lee Taek, Yon was famous for showing a restrained appearance, but he was even more famous for his violence when he got angry. Phew! Mobile strikers checked if Sun Mang. Dal was dead and sighed. It seemed like he only fainted after being kicked in the head. You idiot! Why did you have to anger the chief? Yom? Chan thought to himself. Lee Taek. Yon was known to be unable to control his anger and to have killed criminals. If what he heard was right, then Lee Taek, Yon could have been the head of the forces of evil. Take him. Roger. Mobile strikers supported Sun Mang, Dal, and dragged him into the building. And then, the process proceeded without any further problems. A familiar face appeared in front of Lee Taek, Yon. Is the transfer complete? As Chief Song. He had come down like 5 minutes ago, but Song Wei, Kang decided to stand back as something seemed to have happened. CT room on the first floor of the bureau. Chief Lee Taek, Yon, who was looking at the large monitor playing footage from the 5th basement floor, stroked his chin. What he was watching was something recorded 2.5 hours ago. The facial expression of team leader Yom Chan of the 5th team, who was watching the video, wasn't great. Dong Ju Myung, one of the team members, opened his mouth with a firm face. Unless my eyes are showing me wrong, Chief. Superior master level. Lee Taek. Yon said that. The team leader and the members were all aware of how strong the Murim man was. In order to show such a level of skill, it was only possible for those who reached the state of superior master level. An unidentified person? It was even more questionable that this person's identity was unknown. Song Wei Kang, who was watching it, asked, "Is this tough?" It was Lee Taek, Yon, the chief of special crimes, who could answer that question. It would be no exaggeration to say that their demotion would be confirmed if they took up the mission to save the deputy director and failed. We need to rescue the deputy director as soon as possible. At those words from Song Wei Kang, Lee Taek, Yon asked, "Did you say that even fingerprint and iris recognition aren't working?" "Yes. We were trying to run a blood test, but then everything turned violent. There was no need to continue. Everything was shown on CTV footage. It smells fishy." "You think so too? There is no way that a person can avoid checks. Maybe it has something to do with them." Song Wei Kang nodded in agreement. Falling from the sky to voluntarily entering the bureau, there were too many questions and no answers. Lee Taek, Yon got up from his seat. "Phew, nothing can be done. We don't have a lot of time, so let's hurry." "We don't have time. This man needs to be dealt with within 24 hours. "What do you mean?" Lee Taek, Yon pointed to Chun Yawan on the monitor and said, "Didn't he say not to bother him until he wants to leave?" "Yes, one cheeky bastard." "Yes, he is." Grind. Song Wei. Kang ground his teeth, just thinking of Chun Yawan. If he was a superior master, he could have escaped from any number of strike squads. But the fact that he deliberately entered the bureau on his own feet means he's waiting for a legal exit. Legal exit? If he is related to some organization, they will try to get him out within 24 hours, before the formal investigation is conducted and he is put on trial. Song Wei. Kang was shocked by the sharp insight. He was so concerned about the safety of the deputy director that he didn't think it through. Clearly, Lee Taek, Yon was an excellent person in the bureau. As if the results were out, Song Wei, Kang's face brightened. It was when Lee Taek, Yon asked him, "Then, is it okay if he dies?" "Sorry." He, who was just reassured, was confused. He was ordered to capture and investigate the man who fell from the sky. The man had to be captured. Can't he be captured? For a superior master, it's hard to do. If we want to catch him, we'll end up sacrificing half of the team. At that, team members of the Special Mobile Strike Team nodded their heads. Song Wei, Kang, who had no knowledge of the Murim warriors and their skills, couldn't realize how dangerous the situation was. Right. Even if he's captured, he will only cause more trouble for us. If he gets out, then we'll miss the chance to bring him down. Rescuing the deputy director is more important. His job was more important to him. Making a decision? Song Wei, Kang asked. So is killing him possible? 3:20 am. The team leader and members of the 5th Special Mobile Strike Team, who were fully prepared, were divided into teams of 10 people in front of the elevator and the stairs on the left and right of the building. They also completed the preparations in a rush. Contrary to hurrying, the time they started their mission was late in the morning. Of course, this was part of their plan. Lee Taeyik, Yeon's earphone was working as someone spoke. Check! Chief, he's a superior master. Won't he wake up from a single change in the air? No matter how strong he is, there's a difference between being in perfect condition and not being nervous. Ours is a strategy where we lower the opponent's power as much as possible. Just focus on your mission. Roger! Lee Taeyik. Yeon seemed off. Even though he was fully prepared, he couldn't hide the tension of dealing with a superior master. It was the same with the other team members too. Turn on the comm. Roger! The video was being sent to the other team members who had their goggles on, and the CCTV screen too was being shown. In the CCTV footage, Chun Yawon, their target, was sitting still with his eyes closed. They weren't sure if he was asleep or not. But the deputy director, Ho-il Kyung, who was sitting across from him, was nodding his head from left to right, as if he was asleep. We might miss something. XECTV, I want it to be monitored and report anything that changes. Roger! As the goggles were displaying 2 videos, he was worried that they would miss something. Team A and B enter from the left and right stairs. Roger! The team members who were waiting near the stairs on the left and right went down carefully when Lee Taeyik, Yeon, gave the order. 20 people went down, but the sounds of their footsteps couldn't be heard. It was because of the specially made silent walkers. This is Team A, 2nd floor stairs on the left. This is Team B, 2nd floor stairs on the right. They were going down the stairs very carefully, one step at a time, trying to kill any presence they had. Lee Taeyik, Yeon, who checked the KakTV footage, was relieved that the target didn't notice and ordered them to move another floor down. With tense eyes, the team members went down another floor. It would normally take 3 minutes to reach the 5th basement floor, but now they have taken 20 minutes. This is Team A, 5th basement floor on the left. This is Team B, 5th basement floor on the right. While they were moving, a smile appeared on Lee Taeyik, Yeon's lips as he looked at the TV. In the video, Chun Yawon was still, with his eyes closed. Team A and B use industrial anesthetic air gas bombs as per plan. Roger! Anesthetic gas. It was developed to deal with Murim warriors. When the gas is inhaled, it acts like an anti-internal energy toxin, and it works wonders on paralyzing the nerves. Team A and B gently opened the stairs' emergency exit doors and rolled 5 fist-sized balls. They were the gas bombs. Normally, 2 or 3 would be enough to cover the basement. However, considering that he is superior master, they decided to use 5 from each side just to be sure. Grumble! As the bombs with a silent function rolled on the ground and reached the right place, a hole formed and the gas spurted out in all directions. Shoo, shoo! The gas slowly seeped into the air. Colorless and odorless gas. Even the Murim man wouldn't notice. About 5 minutes later, the team members who were holding their breath because of the tension relaxed. Hiya! I was told he was a superior master, but it looks like I was nervous for nothing. This much means nothing. They weren't the only ones with those thoughts. Lee Taek, Yeon, who was staring at the CCTV footage in front of the elevator, was also convinced that his mission was done. If exposed to the gas for more than 5 minutes, even the superior master will have his energy dispersed and become paralyzed. Team A and B enter the interrogation room at the same time and send a signal. Roger. With that, Lee Taek, Yeon spoke to the team on standby. Open the elevator and move. Roger. The plan was to open the elevator ceiling and then use the line. Judging by the current situation, he thought taking the elevator would be fine. But then he asked them to use the line just to be careful. A mobile striker pressed a button on the elevator, and the door opened. Swoosh! It was then. Inside the elevator was the young man with long hair. Their target, Chun Yao-won. What the hell? It couldn't be. The CCTV footage clearly showed that he was in the room with his eyes closed. Then, how was he in the elevator? Damn it. Damn it. Clank! The team hurriedly tried to aim their machine guns at Chun Yao-won, but he vanished and appeared in front of Lee Taek. Yeon. Swoosh. Shit. Shocked, Lee Taek. Yeon tried to move away, but it was too late. Clench. His neck was grabbed. Power so strong that it felt like his neck was going to break. Cough. With an annoyed voice, Chun Yao-won spoke. How long were you going to make me wait? Ep. 11. 12 hours, 4. 3:54. Beep. 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 This is the CCTV room. What? What does that mean? The team members waiting near the stairways of the 5th basement floor couldn't hide their shock. Until a second back, the mission seemed to be proceeding smoothly. But it changed in an instant. Oh? What is this video? In the CCTV video which they were seeing in their goggles, Chun Yao-won was still on the chair with his eyes closed. However, the video of Lee Taek, Yeon being caught, was seen on the other side. They reacted in the worst way possible. Whoa! Damn it! When people heard the distressed voice of Lee Taek, Yeon, they ran up the stairs without thinking. Ta-ta-ta! Yong-chan, the team leader, who was in charge of teams A and B, and Baek-woo, Man, the first team leader, were ahead of the others. Lee Taek, Yeon couldn't be hurt. Meanwhile, the air in front of the elevator was different. No one was moving, despite aiming for Chun Yao-won, who grabbed the chief. Drip! In a few seconds, their faces inside the helmets were soaked. It felt like they were prey, standing in front of a wild beast. I couldn't see him. I didn't even blink. It was a lot faster than a bullet. All of them were then aware. This is a superior master. This existence couldn't be compared to the criminals of Murim they had dealt with before. Murim was known to be the strongest power in the world during the opening of the gates. Chief! Lee Taek. Yeon was overpowered, and he was at a loss for what had to be done. Listening to the squeaking sound through the earpiece, it was clear how dangerous the situation was. It was then Lee Taek, Yeon tried to speak. Wah! Wait! Ing! For whom? His eyes trembled. From what he said, didn't it mean that he could detect everyone there from the 5th basement floor? Even if he was a superior master, he shouldn't be that great. No, he was never at that level. At least he's at the end of the superior master level. No, it should be higher. Just how did this monster stay hidden till now? The beginning and end of the superior master level are different. When he was flustered by his thoughts, Chun Yao-won spoke. Indeed, it's different. What? Lee Taek. Yeon couldn't understand what Chun Yao-won was saying. Not caring, Chun Yao-won continued. There are 3 supermasters, 8 high-ranked, and then there are 3 men with different energies and 16 just okay people. Shockingly, their target was able to accurately grasp their power. Yong-chan, the Mobile Strike Team leader who led Team A and B Spike Wu. And the power levels of the other members were also accurately stated. He is bad news. Unlike him, who was shocked, Chun Yawen was puzzled. The Murim of the future wasn't as awful as what he heard from his descendant. That didn't mean the public security was amazing, just better than what he had imagined. So this is another time axis. Considering that the era he was in didn't have an imperial family, but an institution that commanded the officials. Nano's explanation made sense. In any case, dealing with these people was a priority. We will process it within 12 hours. You should exercise your right to remain silent while you are in the bureau. Please refrain from acting out as much as possible. That was what Zhou Yuxiong had asked. He spoke as politely as possible, but he meant stay silent and don't move. However, Chun Yawen wasn't the kind who had unconditional patience. He never even knelt in front of the emperor. Just because the era changed doesn't mean he changed. I tried to be quiet, but you guys always ignored my warnings. Since you are in Murim, you need to be prepared for the outcome, right? In Chun Yawen's grasp, Li Taik, Yon struggled. Cough. Put me down. Dog. Put me down. With that, Li Taik, Yon pressed a button with his left thumb. At that moment, a dazzling and sparkling light flowed around. Crackle. Sparks flowed through Chun Yawen's hand. This is it. Li Taik, Yon told the mobile strikers with a hand signal that they could fire. Dude. Tring. Lights were broken, and the corridor became dark in an instant. Only the flashes from the muzzles could be seen. Do. Li Tiek. Yon's safety wasn't even thought of. It was like a sacrifice of allies. Papapak. The bullets fired hit Li Tiek, Yon's body, which had a protective suit on. But the bullet didn't penetrate. Quack! The protective equipment was bulletproof. It could even withstand sword ki. Of course, even though it was bulletproof, it would still hurt. You idiot! Acting out because you are superior master? He was shocked when the target appeared. However, the plan went wrong right from the beginning. His muscles will become stiff due to the electric shock, no matter how strong he is. You will not be able to demonstrate self-defense. He never thought that he would have to resort to such a thing, but it looked successful. When the bullets fell, the target's hands, which turned stiff, wouldn't move. Wah! Oh. Chun Yawen's grip on his neck grew stronger. The hand wasn't stiffened by the shock. Ugh! This can't be. Flustered, Li Taek. Yon struggled and tried to raise his internal energy and strike away the target's hand. Crack. Ah! His neck cracked. Li Taek, Yon's body, which was screaming, drooped. The mobile strikers who were firing noticed something odd. It was because the camera video from Li Taek, Yon's helmet looked to the ground. What? Did the chief pass out? As a supermaster, they thought he would be all right. A member of the 5th team realized something had happened and shouted, "Stop shooting! Stop shooting!" Roger! They naturally stopped firing, plus they had to change magazines anyways. All the lights were broken and their vision was dark. Is it done? Click! When the mobile strikers pressed a button on their helmets, the goggles switched to night vision mode. Their vision turned green the moment they looked. No way. They doubted their eyes. But the bullets were floating in the air as if they hit an invisible wall. No way. The sight of hundreds of bullets floating was terrifying. This wasn't simple self-defense. Those who knew martial arts knew it. Is he really a superior master? No, he couldn't be a simple superior master. Li Taek, Yon was on the floor. Li Taek, Yon, who they thought passed out from the pain of getting hit by the bullets, was like a cold corpse. Damn it! A member, Pungi, shouted. It was then Chun Yawen moved his hand. And Papapak, quack, Quack! Ack! Hundreds of bullets floating in front of Chun Yawen flew in all directions as if he was shooting them from a gun and pierced their bodies. The bulletproof gear was supposed to withstand machine gun fire and even sword kui. Yet, they all fell to the floor as their bodies were hit. Bang! In the CTV room, a mobile striker who was watching the scene hit the desk with his fists. The 9 videos from the camera feed went black at once. It meant that the helmets were pierced. The only intact camera belonged to Lee Taik, Yon, whose body was lying limp on the ground, showing the dark floor. Song Wei Kang, who was there, asked him. He had no idea what happened. He wanted to hear some kind of an answer when the member in front of the monitor hurriedly radioed. Team A, Team B. Operation failed. Operation failed. Instead, go up to the first floor elevator using the emergency stairs. Lee Taik, Yon, and the good members were killed. It wasn't a head-to-head confrontation. There was a problem. Team A, Team B. No, team leader, what's happening? Yong Chun and both the teams had come up, ignoring the radio. Team leader! Shit, rayed the target. Enraged by the death of their chief and colleagues, they seemed to have lost their reasoning. That wasn't right, so even Song Wei, Kang tried to dissuade them, but to no avail. Click! They opened the emergency exit door and threw the remaining gas bombs into the hole. With smoke, the gas bombs opened. Whoops! Yom Chan shifted to night vision mode. The comm screen changed to green, and then he opened the exit door and entered the corridor. The other members followed. Shit! The one watching it through the CT room's going crazy. Despite his warnings, teams entered the hallway. This time, he's here. Shouldn't it be different this time? Why the ominous feeling? Click! Click! At that moment, the voice of Yong Chan was heard. Everyone turned on Yong Chan's camera feed while he was by the elevator. In the middle of the corridor, the target was seen standing right in front of the gas. He was relaxed, close to defenseless. Shoot! Dude. Along with the shout, the machine guns fired right away. But then, in the green screen, the target pulled out a white sword from his waist and split all of the bullets in half. Hell, look at that. My eyes seem strained. Song Wei, Kang couldn't help but be shocked. There have been rumors that Muri men could cut down bullets, but they didn't know it was possible. Nonsense. Even those of the mobile strike team trained in martial arts were shocked. It was impossible to cut down bullets that moved so rapidly. Is it possible for a superior master to do this? But more doubts. Just how? Since he was a superior master, it would take time for the gas to work, but it should still work. Trick! At that time, Chun Yawen suddenly disappeared and reappeared in front of Yom Chan's cam, all in the blink of an eye. Chuck! The sound of something getting cut could be heard through the speakers. The scream from Yom Chan. Yom Chan's cam was moving like crazy. Meanwhile, they could see what had fallen to the floor. Arm. The severed arm. Unfortunately, that wasn't it. Yom Chan's headcam turned right and kept turning. Thud. Quack. Quack. Thud. The cam looked to the floor like Lee Taik. Yawn. No one said it, but everyone knew that he was dead. It was just the beginning. Ack. Kayak. Kayak. Screams kept flowing in from the CTV cameras, and the screens all looked to the floor in a moment. All of the hairs on the body began to rise on those who saw that. Kayak! Thud. With that, the last member's cam looked to the ground, and those in the CTV room stood up. It was because they were scared. At that moment, the last screen suddenly rose and showed someone. It was Chun Yawen. Chun Yawen looked into the camera and opened it. So there was a camera here too. Chun Yawen tapped the cam as if he was intrigued and looked at the ceiling. Are you watching from above too? The faces of those who were looking at the CAC-TV monitors turned pale. EP 12. 12 hours, 5, 4, 5, The CTV room was in chaos. Although the job of a public security officer is risky, this was the first time they were all feeling the fear of death so directly. Damn it. If I knew it would turn out like this, I would have left. I told them I would stay. Except for the detectives on duty, the others regretted not leaving the office. What brought them out of their panic was Kyo Chung, the only unharmed member of the 5th unit. We will have to escape from the emergency stairs at the back of the building. Not here. Yes, I think so too. Song Wei Kang, the chief, who got up, nodded his head. In addition to the two of them, there were 4 detectives of the 3rd Violent Crime Squad on duty, and they had already pulled out their guns with scared faces. Clap! Clap! The team member with a machine gun next to the monitor stood and said, "I will take the lead." Kyo Chung approached the CAC-TV room's door and slowly opened it. He pulled out a mirror from his waist and looked at both sides of the hallway. As it was early morning, the light from outside was dull, but everything could be seen, and there was a green light pointing to the emergency passage. "He isn't here yet." After confirming that there was no one there, Kyo Chung cautiously came out of the room. The detectives, including Song Wei Kang, followed. The emergency stairs were near the computer room, the first room in the hallway, to the left of the elevator. "Shh! We will have to hurry." "Ta-ta-tak!" everyone whispered. They moved as quickly as they could towards the computer room with light steps. The hallways were so long that they began to feel resentment towards the government building. But eventually, they managed to reach the computer room. With feelings of fear and impatience, the crew members hurriedly approached the door to open it. It was then, ding-dong! They heard the bell of the elevator. Everyone in front of the computer room went stiff and brought out their guns. Click, click. The elevator door opened, revealing only a shadowy figure because of the dark hallways. Everyone's eyes shook, and their ears heard Chun Yaowen's voice. "I thought you would have run away, but you were planning on meeting me." Their hearts pounded loudly. Click, click. The door to the Kedi room opened, and someone walked in. It was Chun Yaowen. His eyes widened as he saw the monitors on the CTV room's wall. He did have nanotransfer everything about the current era, but seeing it with his own eyes was different. Having something like this must be convenient. In his time, there was no other way to watch someone other than tail them. CCTV or hidden cameras seemed very useful for monitoring someone and checking out the situation without using trusted people. Chun Yaowen's purpose for visiting the room was simple. "Nano, did you say that everything recorded is stored here?" "Yes." It was to handle the recorded CCTV videos. Chun Yaowen approached the main PC installed in front of the monitors and put his palm on it. Ziz. Nanoparticles of the nanomachine came out of his hand and took the form of a glove. A metal wire extended from his palm and connected to the USP-X port on the C. Chuck, chuck. Chun Yaowen's eyes moved as he looked at the CCTV screens, which were sent to the augmented reality. The CCTV footage didn't just show the building, but the traffic and the nearby buildings, even the buildings of the special teams. Chun Yaowen turned to the CAC-TV screen, showing people. This? About 40 criminals were imprisoned on the 2nd and 1st basement floors. Startled with all the gunshots, they were walking to and fro. They are locked up. So this public security bureau is a place that catches criminals. Chun Yaowen was able to identify the use of public security. However, even though there was such a noisy situation, he was puzzled by the people who weren't moving, and there was a reason for that. Tom! Originally, he was planning on deleting the CCTV footage. Looking at the criminals in the prison, Chun Yaowen smiled. 4:15 am. A dungeon of special people. Awakened by the sound of machine guns, the members of the Firehead gang were bewildered as they listened. There was a reason they were listening intently. "Brother, it seems like it has failed." damn it! At the words of the gang member, the bald man with a bloody face, leaning against the wall, seemed annoyed. He was the middle boss of the Firehead gang, Song Mang Dal. The boss has failed. I wanted to get out of this damn place. They misunderstood the situation. They thought the gunshots might have been the members of the Firehead gang who came to rescue them. Sun Mang Dal is in charge of drug distribution and money management. Since more than half of the organization's operating funds rested in his hands, it was a fact that the Firehead gang would come for him. For that reason, the Firehead gang had actually attacked the buses of the Special Mobile Strike Team. Wait up, boss. Isn't there something that the boss can do? They failed twice. What more can be done, you dumbass? He would have beaten the gang members in a hurry if he was in perfect condition, but his arms and legs were currently cuffed, so he could only swear at them. I didn't think it through. The upset members went silent at those words. It was then. Beep, beep, click. Oh! The doors of the locked prison opened. The Firehead gang members who had given up shouted, "Wah!" They wanted to escape from the prison, and their doors were all opening. They searched the office of the Special Force on the first floor to find the codes to their handcuffs and ran out of the building, becoming free. It was 4:30 in the morning, still dark outside. The entire Public Security Bureau was quiet. Why is it this quiet? The gang couldn't hide their curiosity. If something like gunshots were heard, then there should be signs of movement. But there was no such thing. Something feels off. Sun Mang Dal, who was released from the cuffs, tried to concentrate, but he couldn't feel a single strand of energy. That was when members said, "It seems like the boss has called for professional help this time. It's great." Sun Mang Dal nodded his head as if it could be true. They didn't know who handled the task of getting them out. That was when Sun Mang Dal heard something. Tak! Energy! When he turned his head, he looked at the entrance of the building, as if someone was there. He wasn't sure if they were friend or foe, but if it was a public security officer, he had to deal with them before they called for backup. "Follow me. Someone seems to be alive." That! Sun Mang Dal took the lead and moved to the entrance of the building. Like those who learned martial arts, he was good at killing. Shh! He pushed through the glass doors, but couldn't hide his shock. The smell of blood hit his nose. Isn't this the smell of blood? Didn't they clean up? The entire lobby seemed to be covered with the smell of blood, despite the traces being erased. Something was really off. At this time, everything felt ominous. Tuck! Again, the sound of footsteps. Over there. Yep. At the sound, Sun Mang Dal and the other 6 approached the place. It was dark as the lights were off, but the green light from the emergency exit sign at the end of the hallway helped them. Passing the lobby, they reached the hallway near the elevator. Shh, shh. Something strange seemed to have touched the soles of their feet. Those members, who thought it was odd, touched the floor and then smelled it. Blood? It was blood. They thought it was odd and looked down. Shit! For a moment, they ended up screaming. In front of the elevator were 10 mobile striker corpses. It was as if they were baptized by bullets. They thought the boss would have planned to clean up the bodies, but that didn't seem to be the case. Well, it's strange. Let's just leave the building. It was then. Pang! Quack! Something suddenly flew through the body of a member. One of them screamed in pain, which seemed to end his life. Trap, run away. Sun Mang Dal and the members who were near the hallway were startled by the shouts. Pak! Patatak! Damn it! We've been played! Right, things couldn't have been so easy. Sun Mang Dal and the others rushed out of the office, thinking they shouldn't be caught up in what was happening to those near the exit sign. From the glass at the building's entrance, a black shadow with long flowing hair seemed to be watching them. As the people disappeared, so did the black shadow. Ding dong dong. The LED light with the floor number the elevator was on stopped at 5. 6, 10 am. Early morning when there are few vehicles on the road. A black sedan was moving fast. A man in his mid-30s wearing a neat suit and sitting in the back of the car talking into his smartphone. He was Joe Yu. Yes, Director. Thank you for taking care of my request at such an unreasonable time. See you in the office by 10. Beep! When the call disconnected, Jo Yu Seong wrapped the phone around his wrist with a satisfied expression. He was tired because he couldn't sleep a wink last night. Yet, the results were satisfactory. Now we need to bring him out. All the preparations were done, from documentation to identity preparation. Just the thought of getting it done within 12 hours was amazing. What time is it? Jo Yu Seong turned to the monitor on the headrest of the car's driver's seat. As the TV screen had something playing, the time was shown on the upper right corner. 6:12. I managed to make it on time. He told Chun Yawen he would be there at 6. By the time he arrived at the public security building, he thought it would be around 6:30 or so. He thought Chun Yawen would be understanding. Breaking news. That was when a male newsreader on the TV screen was talking about breaking news. The channel was in Shenyang City. There was no time for news, but he decided to see what happened, since it was emergency news. The man delivered the news with a stiff face. We have unfortunate news. Around dawn, the authorities announced that Sun Mang, Dal and the other members of the Firehead organization who were arrested for drug sales escaped from the Public Safety Bureau. Ha! Jo Yu Seong frowned. It had to be a coincidence that such news came out at a time like this. However, in the process of escaping, the Firehead organization ended up killing around 30 mobile strikers and detectives of the Violent Crime Squad. Along with those words, the CCTV footage was shown on the screen. It was the scene where the Firehead gang members entered the building. Along with that, it seemed like gunshots followed. Phew. That was what CCTV footage showed. The screen switched, and the scene of the emergency conference was shown. In front of the podium, a man with sparse grey hair who looked like the director of the Public Security Bureau was giving a report with a stiff face. After escaping, Sun Mang, Dal, and the others destroyed the data in the CCTV room. The violent crimes chief, Song Wei Kang, was killed as he was fleeing with the video copy of the crimes. The Public Security Bureau will not ignore this. Oh, what is this? Jo Yu Seong, who was watching the news, was stunned. Just what happened at the Bureau in 12 hours. EP 13, Scout Offer 1. 6:10, 5th floor of Shenyang Hospital in a ward. There was a man lying down with a haggard face. It was Lee Myong, the leader of the 3rd Squad. As the emergency room surgeon said, he underwent thorough examination, and even though he suffered gunshot wounds, he only needed a week to recover. Since there's no infection and you've received regenerative treatment, you can return to work after a week of rest in the hospital. After a week, he would be discharged and asked to work at a desk. He was called lucky. Ah, shut up. The sound of a TV playing loudly annoyed him, and the room was mostly filled with elderly people. Not a single person is asleep. The elderly women and men were all awake. Damn it. I have gunshot wounds. At least put me in a single-person room. He groaned. As soon as a week of rest was put down, he was put into a multi-person ward. Croc! He moved for food. After not eating last night and getting treatment, he woke up at dawn because of sleeping on an empty stomach. A nurse entered. How is everyone feeling? Lee Myong asked the nurse. When can I have a meal? Ah, meal. Give me a second. The nurse looked down at the chart. If the doctor comes for his rounds and then declares you are in good condition, I think you will be given porridge. Ah. Lee Myong looked like he was going to die. He was starving, and he couldn't wait until lunch. He knew he shouldn't, but he still asked. Then, can I smoke? Then, he heard it from the TV. Breaking news. We have unfortunate news. Around dawn, the authorities announced that Sun Mang, Dal, and the other members of the Firehead organization, who were arrested for drug sales, escaped from the Public Safety Bureau. What? Lee Myung's face stiffened. On the screen, the director's press conference began, starting with SecTV footage. Song Wei Kang was killed as he was fleeing with the video copy of the crimes. The Public Security Bureau will not ignore this. Damn it! The news of the escape was absurd, and his direct boss had died. What the hell happened? Something happened within the 12 hours of him being hospitalized. Lee Myung jumped up out of bed. Patient. The nurse panicked. Pushing her aside, Lee Myung spoke. I need to be discharged immediately. That can't. Park. Despite the nurse's words, Lee Myung pulled the infusion needle out of his arm. He staggered out of the room while blood dripped from the spot where the needle was inserted. The nurse shouted, Patient Lee Myung? 6:45. Shenyang City Public Security Bureau. The gate wasn't even opened, but the atmosphere of the Public Security Bureau was close to a funeral home, and the staff which belonged to it were summoned early to deal with the situation. Oh my. Wail. Does it make sense that I can't even see the body of my husband after being told the news? The families of the deceased were crying and wailing in front of the office. Due to how the bodies were being sent to autopsy, they weren't shown to the families. Originally, civilians would need to give permission for an autopsy, but when police risk their lives, they receive an autopsy right away. The access to the bureau was blocked with a tape prohibiting the entry of the families. Was that the only CTV footage, or is the bureau hiding something? Why are they controlling the press? Reporters were gathered outside. After the press conference, the reporters of each media group came to ask numerous questions. And because of them, the people of the bureau who were summoned in the morning were having a hard time. Once the results of the investigation are released, an announcement will be made to the press. Until then, reporters step back. The police controlling them shouted. Despite repeating the same line for the last 30 minutes, the reporters showed no signs of backing down. That was when a reporter shouted while pointing to a black sedan, entering through the side driveway. I don't get it. You said that no one should pass except for the people related to it. Then that car which doesn't even belong to the bureau. Why did you let it in? What is this? Let us in too. Thanks to one person's scream, the other reporters shouted. The police officers who were blocking the reporters were shocked. Meanwhile, on the first floor of the bureau, someone was looking at the confused faces of his men. The man with sparse grey hair was Sang Yu Jun, the director of Shenyang City Public Security Bureau. He looked at someone and spoke. So what you want to say is that the Firehead gang and the person in the interrogation room in a weird costume are on a team? Deputy Director. He was talking to Ho Il. His posture while sitting on the sofa was extremely uncomfortable. A doctor from the medical team, who came to work early, relocated his shoulders and bones, which were dislocated, but it was just a temporary measure because his cartilage was damaged. However, he was the only survivor of the night. He couldn't even go to the hospital because he was called for interrogation. Didn't I say that before? Director, the 5th team was ordered to isolate that Murim. Step. The sound of the director's shoes. With a small light beam, a 3D image began to appear on the table. The key footage of the 4th and 5th interrogation rooms in the basement. Oh! In that video, Ho Il Kyung was sitting on a chair in the interrogation room as if he lost his soul. Drool! And he was snoring too. He was told that all of the footage was deleted, but that didn't seem to be the case. Do I sleep like that? Even he couldn't understand how he slept peacefully amid the chaos. Flustered, he tried to explain. Director. Bang! Director Sang Yu. Jun slammed the desk with his fist. There are a total of 2 CTV images of Chief Song Wei Kang. It's this video and then the one given to the media. I can't show this video to the media because the prestige of the Bureau will fall. Do you understand what I'm talking about? He could. There was a uspe in Song Wei Kang's mouth, which made the officers guess that the accident occurred when Song Wei Kang was running away with the USB. Thanks to that, Song Wei Kang was being praised. Ah, Director, you're mistaken. I don't want to hear it. After the interrogation by Squad 3 is done, there will be an indefinite suspension until the higher-ups give any instructions. At that, Ho Il Kyung jumped up and hurriedly knelt in front of the director and spoke with teary eyes. Director, you're really mistaken. Look at me. My shoulders and arms are gone. I was caught by the Murim warrior and I suffered all kinds of humiliation. Knock, knock. Then someone knocked on the door. Since the deputy director was in the room, the director said, I don't know what it is, but come back later. Director, this is urgent. Saying that it was urgent allowed the man to come in. In the meantime, as if nothing happened, Ho-il Kyung went back to the sofa nonchalantly and whistled as he looked to his right. A male detective hurried into the room with an envelope. What is urgent? The director's expression stiffened at the mark of Shenyang City Hall on the documents which were taken out of the envelope. At the bottom were a name seal. At the same time, in the Public Security Violent Crime Squad room, there was a man in his early 40s with a beard in front of him. He was O.U. Bong, the first team leader of the Violent Crime Squad. O.U. Bong spoke to Jo-Yu Seong, who was drinking coffee. I see there's something you want to believe in. Will you wake up from that dream? As you know, the current situation isn't that good, and our director is a wonderful man who does not give in to external pressure or any kind of request. It will not go your way. It was because Jo-Yu Seong brought an official letter requesting the release of that person's who was imprisoned in the interrogation room. He even brought a lawyer from a well-known law firm in Shenyang City. I know, right. Let's wait and see. Jo-Yu Seong smiled. Team leader O.U. Bong clicked his tongue, looking at how the man was speaking provocatively. That young man. But this time, O.U. Bong knew that things wouldn't happen the way the man wanted them to. So why would they want the man to leave? Are you done with your coffee? Pack your papers and let me escort you out. It's hard with all the reporters and the barricades. It was then. Team leader. The detective who was sent to the director's office came back into the room. But that wasn't it. Why? Director Sang Yu. Jun followed him. S. Salute. O.U. Bong immediately got up and saluted. Sang Yu. Jun lightly nodded and looked at Jo-Yu Sing. Have you been well? Director, you must have been working hard. Jo-Yu Seong got up and bowed. Judging from their conversation and the tone, it seemed they were acquainted. I apologize in advance for not being able to properly entertain you in this situation. But fine. Was the request letter written by Director Yong? That's right. I brought the seal, so let's get this moving. O.U. Bong was shocked. He thought his director would never accept that request. But this was something he never expected. The director came down to his room to approve the letter. What the hell? While he was shocked, Jo-Yu Seong looked at him and smiled. Ding dong dong. Jo-Yu Seong, who was waiting in the lobby, bowed to the man. You have been through a lot, Mr. Mu Seong. Mu Seong? Jo-Yu Seong sent a message to Chun Yo-won, who was puzzled. Chun Yo-won nodded, but on the inside he thought it was a clever name. The temporary name he was given was similar to his descendant's name, Chun-Mu Seong. Who's the one next to you? This is Lee Hee-yoon, a lawyer at Keed Law Firm, who is serving as an advisor at our headquarters. He struggled a lot with the paperwork last night. I'm Lee Hee-yoon. Lawyer Lee Hee-yoon gave a light bow. After introducing him, Jo-Yu Seong pointed to the outside of the building Let's get out of this place now, so I'll take you to the head office right away. As Zhou Seong said, the lobby was full of staff and detectives. It was a warning as he was leaving. When Chun Yawen tried to speak up, Zhou Seng and the lawyer said there was no need to deal with the man and led him to a black sedan. Even when Chun Yawen got into the car, Yu Bong stared at him with an angry goblin-like face. The car door closed, and Zhou Seong, who was sitting next to him, calmly said, "That was when Chun Yawen, who was looking out the window, pretended to grab something." Yu Bong, who turned around to enter the building, grabbed his stomach and fell down. No matter how you looked at it, it must have been something Chun Yawen did. Flustered, Zhou Seong told the driver, "Start the car, let's go." The quick-witted driver started the car and stepped on the gas. "I understand your feelings, but if you do What time is it?" Zhou Seong, who was about to speak, went stiff at Chun Yawen's question. He was puzzled, thinking that Chun Yawen would hold him accountable for being late. "If it's because of the promise I made, I apologize. I tried to deal with it as quickly as possible." Zhou Seong touched the smartphone on his wrist. 7:17 AMA. "It's 7:17. We arrived at around 6, but we had to wait inside for it to get approved. So many excuses." For a second, he wanted to ignore Chun Yawen and walk away, but he invested a lot into him, and he already reported to the director. Yes, I lost. I can't help it. Obviously, there's the thing where I broke the appointment time, so I will tell the director when negotiating your salary. Slash! The flexible smartphone that Zhou Seong had on his left wrist cracked. In the moment of shock, his left wrist had fallen on the car's floor. "Kwayak!" Zhou Seong screamed in pain. In his usual cold voice, Chun Yawen said, "Ha. Since you said you worked all night for me, I ended this with your wrist and not your arm." He really cut. He regretted not taking the warning seriously. Ep 14. Scout Offer 2. Kwaak! A scream filled the car. The driver and lawyer Lee Hee-yoon, who were in the front seats, couldn't hide their shock. No. What are you doing? Chief. They couldn't understand Chun Yawen's actions as they didn't know about the 12 hours promise. Keek. The driver hastily hit the brakes, moved into the road's shoulder and stopped. The driver turned back with a rage-filled face and tried to yell at Chun Yawen. "You shit. Don't bother. Let's go to the hospital." Zhou Seong beat him to it and sent a message to the driver. But chief, isn't he insane? Shockingly, it looked like the driver was also trained in martial arts. The driver responded in an enraged tone. "That chief, you went through so much trouble all night to get him out. Why would he cut off your hand?" "I told you to laugh. Start the car." The driver hesitated for a moment and looked at the pale face of Zhou Seong and grabbed the steering wheel. There was no need for him to make Zhou Seng, who was in pain, angry. I looked down on this man. As the driver thought, Zhou Seong was suppressing his anger too. In the beginning, he couldn't compete with his skills and couldn't even speak out due to the hasty process of recruiting Chun Yawen. A warning. Zhou Seong thought that this was Chun Yawen's warning. The price of taking advantage of other people and breaking promises. Maybe he's not a sect-oriented person. If he had been a sect-oriented person, there was no way he could act so cold-hearted. Even then, Zhou Seong decided to proceed carefully in the future, considering that this man wasn't an ordinary person. Tatatak. As the pain became tolerable, Zhou Seong pressed on his left arm's blood points. The blood, which was gushing out, stopped flowing. Zhou Seong took out a handkerchief and wrapped it around the cut part, and then tried to pick up the severed hand which was on the car's floor. Float. The hand floated and landed on the seat. Zhou Yu. Xiong was shocked. He felt it at first sight, but it seemed like he was more than a superior master. Phew, I need to talk it out. They were already on the way to the hospital, but Zhou Yu. Xiong decided to ask for Chun Yaowen's understanding. Thank you. I apologize again, but before we go to the head office. Chun Yaowen answered before he finished. Don't worry about it, and stop by the hospital. For a moment, Zhou Yu Seong was confused. I remember saying it telepathically. There was no way one could hear the telepathic messages of others. Zhou Yu Seong, who thought that it was strange, dispelled his doubts. But if he thought about it, isn't it a normal reaction to head to the hospital after someone's wrist was cut off? He decided that he was overreacting. Shenyang City Public Security Bureau. Violent Crimes Squad 3. No. What kind of bullshit is this? The man, whose voice was so loud that it could be heard outside the office, belonged to Li Mayong, the team leader of the 3rd Squad. Detective Dan Young. Hyong, a short-haired female detective, with bruises on her face, spoke to the team leader by making silent gestures. Shh, team leader, please lower your voice. Do you think I can control myself? Quack. Damn it! Li Mayong held his throbbing shoulder. It had been only a few hours since he got treatment, so the pain remained. The attention of all the people in the 3rd Squad was diverted to Li Myong. It would be strange if they weren't worried for the man who had been shot and ran into the office wearing a hospital dress. Firstly, team leader, you're hurt, so please go back to the hospital. We just finished the interrogation, so we also only noticed that now, but there's nothing we can do. Dan Young. Hyun tried to comfort him. She could understand why Li Mayong was angry, but there was nothing they could do about it. The incident was so significant that every personnel was needed, and even the special department of the Liaoning province's public security was sent. In the end, it's the task for the special team. Special team. My foot. Including the chief. At least 8 people from our department have died. How can this be those bastards' task? Does it make sense to release the most likely culprit just because of external pressure? She let out a sigh at Li Mayong's outburst. Because of his stubbornness, Li Myong was known to be the dumbhead in the Public Security Bureau. It's starting again. But she didn't hate him. Although he had a wild mouth and didn't follow the rules, he was still a kind and loyal man. Of course, that was something only the detectives of Squad 3 thought. Looking at the other detectives, the female detective said, Once again, the team leader is acting like this. Take him to the hospital and I'll talk with the director myself. With those words, Li Mayong got up from his seat and sprinted outside the office. The bewildered detectives blocked him, but he overpowered them. Thud. Shit. Ouch. The male detectives were knocked down with a simple push. Li Myong is a famous martial artist on the team, but he was too strong for a man who suffered from a gunshot wound. Are you trying to hurt the patient? And you do some exercises. With those words, Li Mayong ran out of the office. Shit! Hey, hurry up and catch the team leader! The detectives of Squad 3 were bewildered and followed him. But Li Mayong was so fast that he managed to reach the front door of the director's office. Even though the female secretary stopped him, he still went into the room. I'm telling you not now. He's on a business call, right? No. Director Sang Yu. Jun, who was on a call, frowned at the sudden actions of Li Myong. Actually, he wasn't shocked. It wasn't the first time this happened. Li Mayong would directly rush into the director's room or deputy director's room whenever something didn't make sense, and even call them cowards. Move to University Hospital. I get it. For now, keep your eyes open and watch everything. Beep! He immediately ended the call. The female secretary who followed grabbed Li Mayong's arm and tried to drag him out. That was when the director got up from his seat and gestured that it was okay. Secretary Lim, you can leave. Ah, I understand. When the lady closed the door and left, The director opened his mouth with an unpleasant expression. "What are you doing? How many times have I told you to not barge in?" If it was any other detective, they would have been flustered, unable to do anything. However, this man, Lee Myong, is dumb-headed. "The chief is dead, director." "So, what do you want?" Is the director really going to talk like that? If you act like this, how can public security be run? With a disappointed look, he continued, "If you have received an interrogation report from my team members, won't you know? Regardless of the CTV footage, only 2 people survived. If you think with common sense, he's likely the culprit. If there are no problems after the investigation, it would have been right to let him go. But that isn't the case here." Lee Myong shook his head at the director, who said nothing. "I respect the director. A true public security officer never gives in to pressure. But in the end, I think I've realized that you are the same as everyone else." Lee Myong, who said everything he wanted, turned to leave the office when the director stopped him. "Stop." Lee Myong stopped, wondering what the man had to say. "Do you see me as someone who would succumb to external pressure and release someone?" "Sorry?" The director turned the monitor on his desk towards Lee Myong. What Lee Myong saw made his eyes shine brightly. Shenyang City University Hospital. Inside, the orthopedic medical examination room. A middle-aged doctor who was examining the severed left hand sighed. "Phew, was this really caused by a blade?" "Roughly similar. But why are you asking?" "Jo-Yu." Seong was puzzled by the doctor's question. The doctor enlarged the cross-section of the arm. There were 2 photos of the left hand and left arm on the monitor, which had been perfectly cut off. Even if it was caused by a blade, the human muscles and bones are so tough that the nerves and blood vessels become haggard and distorted. But that isn't the case here. The cut is so clean, as if they were anatomical specimens. That was why the doctor was surprised. At that, even Jo-Yu, Seong admired Chun Yawan. Because he used internal energy, he assumed that he had excellent swordsmanship, but he didn't expect it to be that amazing. If this is the case, I think we can proceed directly with a single-sided junction regeneration surgery without surgery to align nerves. Conjugation of the severed parts is a complicated process. It isn't a single operation, but several operations. However, the doctor said that only joint surgery and regenerative treatment were needed. After the operation, you will be hospitalized for 3 days, and if the result is good, you will be able to use your fingers like before. There couldn't be more fortunate news than that. It would be nice to have surgery done right away, but there is still work to be done. Despite the doctor's recommendation to have surgery at noon, Jo-Yu, Seong asked for it to be held late in the afternoon and only received first aid. As Jo-Yu, Seong left the room, the nurse whispered. "Doctor, he's a martial artist, right?" "Indeed, as expected, a nurse who worked here for 8 years. He worked in orthopedics, so there was no way he was unaware of such wounds. There wasn't a single person who would be that calm if their hand was cut off, except for Murim warriors and gatekeepers. If not from a martial artist, how can a cut like that happen?" "Ho ho!" The middle-aged doctor, who looked at the monitor and saw the cut, smiled. "Well, that martial artist who did that must have been through a lot too, at the same time." The lobby of the hospital. An old man with white hair was sitting in a chair waiting to be called. Compared to the wrinkles, the way the man sat with a straight back was unusual, and instead of a cane, the old man held a green sword. Looking at how heavily it was decorated, one could see that it wasn't an ordinary stick. "Wah, he's a warrior." "That old man, is he a Murim warrior?" No matter who looked at it, the old man was a Murim warrior. Perhaps he was accustomed to it. The old man seemed to be okay with all the attention. That was when someone rushed over to him. A man in his late 30s, dressed in a dark blue suit, greeted the old man with clasped hands. "Moyong Yi," son greets. Elder Peng. Oh Moyong." Those who knew even a little about Murim would have been shocked by those names. The direct descendants of the Moyong clan and the Peng clan, two of the 5 great clans of the forces of justice. Of course, things like clans aren't used anymore. The man in his late 30s, Mo Yong-yi, son, was the managing director of the Yon Company, the largest corporation in Shenyang. Don't call me by that title. Just call me like you usually do. He. Is that so? The descendants of the 5 great clans, they frequently got to meet each other. Mo Yong-yi. Sun spoke while looking at the number on the table next to Peng Nyung. I don't get it. If you had informed me about this in advance, my people would have quickly handled the payment. Why didn't you? Hoo-hoo. That would be too burdensome. I'm here for a simple checkup. Come to think of it, you kept staring at someone as you entered. Do you know him? Peng, who had good eyesight, found that Mo Yong-yi, son, was looking at a certain someone, a man wearing a cast as he injured his left arm. If it was just an ordinary person, Elder Peng wouldn't have even cared about it. But that man was a Murim warrior. Yes, he's a business acquaintance. Is that so? It felt like he avoided getting into details, so Elder Peng didn't pay it much mind, because it was none of his business. But Elder is really great. What do you mean? Did you come here because of the gate warning? To come get a consultation despite it being taxing for an 80-year-old? Hoo. What kind of wording is that? In a world where gates are open, if old people like me can help, that's more than enough. At that time, Peng Nyung's face went stiff. He was going to ask Mo Yong-yi, son, about something, but Peng suddenly moved out of the lobby. Elder! Mo Yong-yi. Son followed him. Peng, who escaped the hospital building, was looking elsewhere. There were a few people. Woo! Looks like there was accident. Mo Yong-yi. Son, who reached his side, spoke. On the side that Elder Peng looked at was a grand Arv stopped by a power pole. It looked like the front tire was punctured. Shockingly, both the front wheels of the car were torn to shreds. Did you come out after hearing the accident? At Mo Yong-yi, Sun's question, Peng Nyung, Guillaume muttered with trembling eyes. I just felt a tremendous energy a moment back. Didn't you feel it? Mo Yong-yi. Sun's eyes lit up at those words. Because it was the first time that Elder Peng, one of the top 100 martial artists registered in the Murim department of the Chinese government state council, was shocked like this. Maybe one of them? Mo Yong-yi. Sun pointed to 2 men who came out of the crashed RV. Maybe it was because of the accident, but the 2 men who got out of the RV had no energy. At that, Elder Peng shook his head and said, No, it appeared for a moment and then disappeared. With those words, Peng Nyung, Guillaume clenched the sword in his hand. Did this Peng Nyung, Guillaume, miss a thunder user? He was the master of thunder. The black sedan left the hospital grounds. Zhou Yu, Xiong, who had a cast on his left arm, asked Chun Yawen, who closed his eyes with his arms crossed. By any chance the flat tires of that RV, was that your doing? Chun Yawen didn't deny it. It was because Zhou Yu, Xiong, had clenched his fist. He knew it, but he still wanted to ask. And Chun Yawen stayed silent. He was frustrated. That was when the driver sent him a message. Chief Zhou, even if not for that, I was going to tell you once I confirmed it. But that grey RV, it had been following us since we left the Public Security Bureau. What? At those words, Zhou Yu Seng's eyes widened as he looked at Chun Yawen. EP 15, Scout Offer 3. And he noticed that? Zhou Yu, Xiong, couldn't hide his shock. Of course, he couldn't focus on what was happening around him, thanks to his severed wrist. However, the fact that Chun Yawen, who was always looking ahead, managed to notice that meant that he was very attentive. Is a superior master this great? Among Murim people who are strong, only a handful of people manage to reach the superior realm. To reach that level, one would have to pass many levels. Zhou Yu, Xiong has constantly been learning martial arts since his childhood, but he was only able to reach the Supermaster level in his mid-20s. People around him said that it was a great achievement, but this young man in a historical costume made him feel like nothing. He only looks 20 years old. Chun Yawen looked to be only in his early 20s. The world is so unfair. It was hard to reach the Supermaster level in the mid-30s, even while working for a company, because everyone had a role to play. Before going insane, he decided to organize these thoughts. Right now, if he learned the real level of Chun Yawen, he might die of shock. So the public security is keeping an eye on us? The director had come and even signed and stamped the request, which was pretty unexpected. He thought it was because of the accident which happened inside the bureau. Joyu Si-young glanced at Chun Yawen, who had his eyes closed. He didn't think that Chun Yawen had anything to do with the Firehead gang of the forces of evil escaping. It was because they were people who made a living selling drugs. There was pressure from above, but they ignored it. The director of public security, Joyu Si-young, ended up thinking too lightly of him. The Public Security Bureau was an institution under the State Council. We'll have to cut the string before it gets more tangled. While Joyu Si-young was deep in thought, Chun Yawen still had his eyes closed. On the surface, it looked like he was meditating, but his eyelids trembled faintly. The material has been organized into the brain. It is 100 complete. Nano's voice echoed in his head. Once they were out of the Public Security Bureau, he was able to connect to the Wi-Fi. From the moment they left the bureau, Chun Yawen had Nano organize all the information about the present era. It was missing some things, but the basics were all there. And after that, Nano completed the task of distinguishing the knowledge of the present and future, which was built in and transferred it to Chun Yawen. I have a headache. Because of the large amount of information that has been transferred at once. Since the development of the internet, this era is called the Information Age, so the amount of information present was enormous. It was so vast that it couldn't be compared with the number of techniques and books transferred to his brain in his era. It was natural to have a headache. My head is all messed up. The transfer was successfully completed, but he got dizzy when a lot of information was placed into his brain. Even for him, who reached the Heavenly Master level, it was too much to handle. Complex social structure. That was the opinion of Chun Yawen, who had all the information transferred into his brain. This era was more complex than his time. It was more restrictive in a way. This society has great resistance to murder or injury. Chun Yawen, who lived in savagery, couldn't understand it. This era was a world where there were too many restrictions caused by laws, social notions, and morals. Was the non-aggression treaty broken down into this structure? Looking at the transferred information, the Murim warriors also seemed to live their lives by following the laws and the ideal social structure. The main reason behind that was the fact that Murim warriors were affiliated with the government. The registration of Murim. Such a cumbersome system. All Murim warriors had to register with the Murim department within the government state council. Only then, with a few restrictions, were they allowed to carry a weapon. It doesn't matter. The Murim department seemed like it graded Murim warriors. In the past, the Murim people decided on the 5 strongest warriors, and each clan in the 9 great clans had to earn the title. But now, the government which was controlling the Murim would give the grading. Interestingly, from a certain point on, Murim warriors seemed to be obsessed with that too. Aren't they just being distracted? Is that why? Perhaps the root cause of it was something called the First Dimension Gate, a natural disaster of unknown origin which suddenly occurred 28 years ago. Humanity was threatened as unknown dangerous entities jumped out of the gates, which opened suddenly. At that time, the Murim warriors appeared. The Murim, which was considered to be the dark side of society, was revealed through that opportunity, and now everyone was aware of it. The press, phones with cameras, internet. There are problems. From the moment they were exposed to the public, the existence of Murem was no longer a legend. In addition, the Murem warriors couldn't disappear in the current state of the world, with gates being opened in succession, starting with the first Dimension Gate. Chun Yaowen, who was thinking about it all, asked Nano, "Nano, where are the State Council, the Murem Department, and the Murem Association?" "Right. In the case of the Murem Association, public institutions, and certain organizations, there is a limit to the data which can be collected through the wireless internet because they have their own operating system." Chun Yaowen frowned. Much of the material he wanted to know was missing. The Murem Association is registered as a Murem office and allowed grading, so ordinary people's information about Murem was only of the association. The same with the Dimension Gates. Again, it was controlled by the State Council to prevent civilians from accessing the information. In some ways, Dimension Gates were more strictly controlled than the Murem Association, and if any material was uploaded on the internet, it was immediately deleted. So bothersome. In the end, it meant that he had no chance but to move on from that topic. The simplest way to get information would be to infiltrate those places. No matter how different the system was, its data could be extracted if Nano was directly connected to the main computer. But everything is vague. We need a more direct clue. That way, he could decide how to approach it. Even though it was a different time axis that Nano had no idea about, there were some commonalities. That being said, not much has changed. For example, the energy I felt in the hospital. Chun Yo-woon sensed certain energies while Jo-yu Seong was being treated. The internal energy from very familiar harvesting technique. I felt it from someone before. Chun Yaowen, who reached the Heavenly Master level, was able to distinguish the characteristics of energy. Something flashed through Chun Yaowen's mind, who for a moment recalled the energies. Moyong clan, the Peng clan of Hebei. If he wasn't mistaken, then the energies he felt had to be of those two clans. Chun Yaowen was upset. It would have been better to get out of the car and talk to them. But now he was so far away that he couldn't even sense their energies. Still, I got something. The fact that their descendants, the 5 great clans, are present in this age too, so my cult should exist too. The information that Chun Yaowen wanted to find out the most was anything about the Sky Demon Order. In order to return to his original era after arriving at an unfamiliar place, rather than struggling alone, he wanted to meet the people of the Sky Demon Order, which were like family to him. Was it Sky Corporation? In the future, where Nano was created by his descendant Chun Mu-seong, the Sky Demon Order is called the Sky Corporation. Ah, right. Nano, go on that wireless thing and search for the Sky Corporation. Understood. At Chun Yaowen's command, Nano started searching. The search didn't take long. Total of 7 groups were found. Not 1 but 7. But Nano's next words were puzzling. There are a total of 0 Sky Corporations in the Chinese government's territory. What? A world map in the form of a globe unfolded as augmented reality opened up. Ah! Exclamation! Although the information about it was transferred, it was still strange to see the entire world. At that time, the locations of the Sky Corporations were marked with red dots. However, none of them existed in Chinese government's territory. No way! Chun Yaowen's eyes trembled. He thought that the Sky Demon Order existed under the name Sky Corporation. However, it was strange that it didn't exist in this place. Is there anything which was originally in Chinese territory but moved to another place? No. They are all foreign companies, and the heads are all foreigners. Photos of people appeared above the marked-up areas. Not a single one looked the same as his people. They were all foreigners. Chun Yaowen was frustrated. Why? In this era, traces of 2 of the 5 great clans, the Moyong clan and the Peng clan, were discovered. But it didn't make sense that the Sky Demon Order was nowhere to be found. The Sky Demon Order, which he led, had the power to engulf the entire Jianghu region. It was greater than the 5 great clans combined. Is it possible that the cult was destroyed in this time axis? There was no way of knowing, but if that was what happened, it would be a huge shock to Chun Yaowen, the Lord of the Sky Demon Order. Chun Yaowen, who was at a loss for words, suddenly thought, maybe it's under a different name? The time axis is different, and the level of Murim warriors here isn't as low as his descendant described. That being said, there was no guarantee that the Sky Demon Order would be the Sky Corporation. If that was the case, it made sense for previous search to not have favorable results. Nano. Search for a company where a person with the name Moyong is the head or owner of it. Understood. The results were out immediately. A total of 1 company was found with the name Moyong in it. A company that has a total of 13 affiliates. As expected. Maybe if things went this way, perhaps he could find traces of the Sky Demon Order. Nano. Find a company where the owner has the name Chun. Understood. This too didn't take long. Total of 108 companies with the name Chun were found. What? Chun Yaowen was speechless. When he searched for Moyong, only 1 company came up, but when he searched for his own surname, so many companies came up. What the hell is? Sigh. Too many. Just way too many. He was shocked for a moment, but stayed calm. Although there were more companies than expected, it could be because they had potential. If we want to shorten the list, how do we do it? The companies weren't disclosing their information either. The company he searched for a while back was an automobile manufacturer, and it wasn't related to the Murim clan. The sedan suddenly stopped. We are here. Chun Yaowen opened his eyes at Zhou Yu. Seong's words. The black sedan stopped in front of a building, 40 stories tall. When he got out, Zhou Yu, Seong led him to the entrance of the building. This is our headquarters. Entering the building, a spacious lobby lined with indigo-colored marble was revealed. In the lobby, a 5-meter tall toy stood up in the center. There was an information desk behind it with the company name written on it. 6 Road Toys. At Chun Yaowen, who was looking around, Zhou Yu, Seong said, 6 Road Toys. This is our company name. Toy? Right. The robot in the middle did seem like a toy. Zhou Yu, Seong smiled and pointed at the elevator to the right of the lobby. Our director is waiting. Let's go this way. Zhou Yu. Seong, who was about to lead him to the elevator, patted around his body as if he had forgotten something and searched for it. Come to think of it, I didn't get your full name. With that, Zhou Yu, Seong politely handed Chun Yaowen his business card. First, I will introduce myself. Zhou Yu, Seong, the chief of 6 Road Toys. A red and yellow paper business card. On the front was written 6 Road Toys, along with the name Zhou Yu, Seong, a phone number, and another number. You have an analog tick. If you give me your number, I will send you an electronic business card too. Some things didn't change over time. The business card. Chun Yaowen knew about it because of all the information which was transferred into his mind. His expression stiffened. Seeing that, Zhou Yu Seong smiled and said, You must have been shocked. Were you surprised that we are a new company? Although the 6 Road Toys is a new launch, our performance is high thanks to the support of the head office. This is a place you can trust and rely on. Is this the head office's name? Chun Yaowen looked at the card with narrow eyes. On the back of the business card was the name of the head office. Blade 6. The name of a company in English. A name he would never forget. It was another name of the Blade God 6 martial clan who fought for power with the Sky Demon Order and the Yulin.